Hi, welcome to Flight Test. I'm Josh, and today we're going to be showing you how to turn your FT Nutball into an FT Snowball. Now, if you haven't seen the FT Snowball episode already, it's a wonderful design that was not designed by us, but we wanted to take our FT Nutball, turn it into an FT Snowball. We have a conversion kit, but we also have free plans, and this is quite possibly one of the easiest to build scratch builds that can be done in the evening at your leisure. So, if you haven't already, download the plans, get your materials in order, or just simply go into the store, buy a 3-pack, and don't forget your speed wheel kit. The floats for this will also work on your FT Flyer as well. All right, get your materials in order and we'll get started. Now, before you go ahead and put your conversion kit together, there's two things you need to assemble first. Get your FT Nutball assembled. Now, you don't need to worry about the dowels or the bottom pod if this is a brand new kit, but if you have a flying nutball already, you can definitely convert this over to it. All you simply need to do is remove your pod and cut off your two barbecue skewers in the front. Besides that, you also need to assemble your FT Elements Simple Firewall. Now, this is very easy, self-explanatory, but we're going to walk through it anyway. Now, you can use wood glue for this, but really, instant glue is the best. I like to use the thicker stuff because it's thicker wood and let it soak in a little bit. First step we want to do is take some instant glue, which I'm almost out of. There we go. And simply put a bead right across the top. And then using the table as your friend, press the first piece down firmly. Now at this point you can kind of sit this up here to keep it at an established right hand angle there. Just like that. Make sure when you glue this together, everything is firmly against itself. Because it keys together, if it's sloppy, nothing will fit. Once you're happy with that fit, lay it on its side, and once again in the recessed lower flat areas, put a nice thin bead of glue. More glue does not mean more strength, so be careful about that. Just put just enough that you need. And once again, this is nice and friction fit. So you're going to have to push down. And once you get it where you like it, flip it over and use the table as your friend. Now this is dried. Before I put the other piece on, I'm just going to simply put a nice layer of glue and let it soak down in that gap. Doesn't have to be super thick. And the more you let the glue soak down into the joint, the stronger the fitting you're going to have. Just like so. Now we're going to repeat the last process on the last side. There we are. And once again, we'll follow up with a nice thin bead of glue on the inside. First thing we're going to start off with is the pedestal mount. This is what's going to raise your motor up above your nutball. Now, because it's an all-terrain vehicle and we're going to be in the snow, we're going to possibly be in the water, and it's going to be exposed to elements. If you want to waterproof this, it'd be a good time to do it now. Now, the method you can use right now is I'm just going to use some simple packing tape, and it's very simple. I like to actually just start over the top and physically tape it right to the table. Like so. Just like that. Now you can go over it with a razor blade and really push down hard and get everything sealed very nicely. Now when you're ready to cut it loose, make sure you have a nice sharp razor blade. All you need to simply do is trace that outer perimeter. I'm going to repeat the same process on the inside. Now this is laminated with packaging tape. I'm simply going to take my knife and cut open the reliefs of the areas that we need to remove for the foam so it can get the proper fold. Simply open this up and remove our excess foam. This should be very familiar to you if you've ever built any of our designs before. This is a typical A-fold. An A-fold is where the side cheeks go over top of the bottom plate. If it was a B-fold, they would go next to it. There we are. Now I'm just going to go ahead and pinch these down a little bit so it'll pass through nice and neat when we fold it to our A-fold. There we go. Okay, now it's going to be the time that we're going to focus most of our glue on this upper joint right here and here. The reason being is it's going to come around and fold up against here. We're going to fold this up against it and let it dry. We're going to repeat the same process on the other side. At this point, we're going to take the FT Element Simple Firewall that we made, and we're going to line it up with the etch marks down below here. Now keep in mind there's about a 1/16 of an inch difference of thickness between the Elements Firewall and the bottom plate. So it's actually going to taper in just a little bit, but that's okay. There's plenty of give to give that proper curve to make everything strong. All we simply want to do now is simply make a little score cut around the area where our tape was and peel it up. It's okay if this takes off the paper. It's better to glue it to the foam than the actual tape. And it doesn't have to be exactly the match. It can be a little bit smaller than the area of the FT Element Simple Firewall, just so you have something solid to glue to. Now, we're going to put a healthy amount of glue on both sides of the FT Element Firewall, and when we slide it down in, we're just going to concentrate on lining it up with the bottom score lines, and then we're going to hold it firm until it dries. And the very front of our Element Firewall is going to line up flush with the front of our power pod. Now, if you want to go and furthermore seal these edges without folding them over, on our speed build kit, and also something very easy to make, we just have these little tiny paddles that will ride up along here. All you simply need to do, put a little bead of glue on the edge. Stick your paddle down, fold it over, and it's going to smear that glue very nicely up and around your tape and seal everything from going on there. Or sealing your paper from peeling off. Now's a good time. We can put this aside and start on our pontoons or skis or float or whatever you want to call them. Now, the float skis are very simple design. We're going to want to repeat the same process, but we don't need to do it on the inside. We only need to do it on the outside. This is something totally elective, but I'd strongly recommend that you tape these. Reason being is this is going to be rubbing against some snow, and believe it or not, snow is somewhat abrasive. So go ahead and reinforce it with some form of tape before you go ahead and assemble it. Now that we have our clear packing tape on one side, we're simply going to go ahead and open up and remove the cavity for our A-fold. Following the same guidelines we did with our pedestal, we're going to go ahead and apply a bead of glue on this very top surface here. Use the table as our friend and fold the bottom plate up to the side plate, making sure we're perpendicular. Once that's dry, go ahead and put another bead down. Now that the top of our ski is done, we're going to work on the bottom. Now this is where it's going to be very similar to our F22 build, and if you've ever done one, this is going to look familiar. I'm simply going to use a razor blade to kind of help aid this, since there's not a way to fold this paper back. Make it a little bit easier on us. So go ahead and remove the two outer pieces of flashing, and also the two center pieces. There we go. Now you can see here that this is half of an A-fold. So in other words, this is going to go right over top of the bottom plate like so. But before we do so, we want to remove this piece of paper here, because we're going to need this to curl up and meet with the top. And anytime you remove one of the pieces of paper, it becomes very bendy for you. Now we're going to go ahead and apply our bead of glue to the side cheek and fold up the bottom plate to meet it and let it dry. Once this is dry, we're going to go ahead and do a quick test fit just to make sure we're happy with everything. But we don't want to try to glue everything at once. We only want to glue one portion at a time. So we're going to start with this back portion here, and it fits just fine. So we're going to simply take our hot glue gun, put a bead of glue right around the edges of the back plate. And with the sliding motion, we're simply going to slide that up into place. Once again, this is where we can use the table as our friend, but keep in mind with hot glue sticking out, it's going to glue to the table if you're not careful. So what I like to do is kind of slide it as you're pushing against the table. Now that the back plate is firmly dried, we're going to go ahead and simply take our hot glue gun and get the nozzle as far back towards the edge as possible and put a nice bead of glue right up on the top. With the glue up towards the top, we're simply going to rock the float forward. Still don't know what they call floater skis. All the way to the very edge, and then push with a nice firm push against there. And hold it until it's dried. Our final step is to finish off our float ski. I like that. Float ski is a good name. Okay, all we're going to simply do, take a length of tape, make sure it's longer than what you need if you want to get it all done in one stop. And then let it overlap about 1/4 of an inch onto the side. Just like that. And then bend it around to the front. And go up the back and seal down nice and firmly. Once again, you can use a razor blade as your friend. Get a nice firm seal. And then just like you're wrapping a gift, cut the reliefs out and fold them in. Now you can take your time and you can do it as clean as you want, or you can just crumple it around the edge. At the end of the day, as long as it's sealed, it's okay. Just like that. We're going to repeat the same process on the other side. Now, if you plan on going over areas that are possibly abrasive and you want to make this a little bit more durable, put about 3 or even 4 layers on the very bottom here. Reason being is, as this rubs over ground and maybe goes over gravel or some concrete, it's going to wear off slowly. And the more this wears off, the weaker this whole joint's going to get. So if you want to really get abrasive, go ahead and put a couple layers on that. Or you can take a 2-liter Coke bottle that has nice flat sides, cut off the plastic, and simply tape it right over this area and have a hard plastic skid so you don't have to worry about it getting rubbed away. Our first float ski is now done. We're going to repeat the exact same process on the second one. All right, our float skis are now done. Our pedestal with our FT Element Simple Firewall is done, and we're ready to go ahead and put it on our Nutball. Now, if you have an existing Nutball or if you built a Nutball that's not waterproofed, you're going to want to go ahead and do that. Now, you can do it the camp dry method, the tape method, the contact paper method, or the Minwax method. But before you do the Minwax or the camp dry method, make sure that you do the final assembly. The other ones you can go ahead and do beforehand, but just remove the tape before you put it together. Speaking of removing the tape, we're going to go ahead and do that right now. I'm simply going to do a couple little score lines down the center and peel up the paper so we get a nice glue joint. You don't want to be gluing tape to tape, or else the thing's going to fall apart in midair. For this one, I'm going to go ahead and just do the camp dry method on the rest of the airplane. So I'm simply going to go ahead and put a bead of glue down on the very bottom of the pedestal. And these 2 notches here are simply going to fit right where our power pod notches are, and we're going to push it flat against the building board, keep it in nice and straight. If you want to go back later and put a reinforcement bead of glue on both sides, feel free to. Our next step is to remove some of the tape on the top of the float skis, but before we do, we're going to want to find out which amount of tape to remove. Now, the back of the floats are going to line up with the CG marks. And speaking of CG marks, the CG for this is going to be the exact same. So you're going to use the same CG marks as you did before in the same throws. Everything's going to be the same, except for the fact it's flying off of snow. So we're going to go ahead and remove a little bit of material on the back of this, once again, to keep it from peeling off. You don't have to remove every square inch of it. Just an inner portion will do just fine. Apply a nice healthy bead of glue in the area. And we're going to line the outer edge here with the polyhedral brace right there. We're going to repeat the exact same process on the other side. Well, friends, your Nutball has now become a Snowball, and I want to thank you for watching. As far as electronics goes, if you follow along the rest of the Nutball build, you're going to see exactly how everything goes, the balance points, the build, everything is the exact same. Also, in your conversion kit, if you're wondering how we did with the FT flyer there, that extra piece of wire is simply bent the exact same as your front landing gear, reversed, and then taped onto your skis. I want to thank you guys for watching. Thank you so much for supporting Flite Test. Once again, all the free plans are available in our article. There's going to be a link down below the article that'll say free build plans. I challenge you to go ahead and go there, go make a memory, and have some fun.